Awesome. Okay, well, and the gang's all here, so we're so looking forward to hearing from our wonderful city council person's office just to see what's some good news in our neighborhood. And we also have Joyce Neufeld from Community Ministries, our wonderful food bank and more. So she'll be talking about the good news that she wants to share for sure. And then super exciting, we have our neighbor from the Athmar Park neighborhood, Johnny Sherry, and he has been doing some very cool stuff in the Athmar neighborhood and was gracious enough to take a portion of his evening to share with us what he's been up to. So super excited. And with that, I just want to quickly turn it over to Jackie to say a few words, and then we'll get started, and then we'll have you can get off this computer for the rest of the day and enjoy the rest of your night. So Jackie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just going off of what Brandy said is I'm just so grateful that we have such a wonderful representation in this neighborhood. We've got some really cool things happening, even though we're not necessarily able to meet in person. It's still really, really wonderful to have this platform, to have such active social media, to have such responsive neighbors and involved neighbors, that I feel really, really fortunate to be a part of this neighborhood. And speaking of exciting things, I was just on another call with Councilman Clark, and I was wondering why your video wasn't on. And now I understand the awesome cat sweater needed to be revealed for us and our meeting alone. So no, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who has been so active, so responsive, and awesome, awesome neighbors like we're going to get to hear from here shortly. So just wanted to share my appreciation and yeah, just how cool it is to live in this neighborhood and to be a part of this wonderful community.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jackie. And I would definitely like to echo Jackie's sentiments. We're feeling, even though this has been probably the weirdest year in most of our lives, we're so glad to be able to gather with you, and just cannot wait until that is a thing in person again, whether it's, at a neighborhood meeting or at Ruby Hill Park, or yeah, it'll be fun to see your faces soon. So and with that, without further ado, this is our councilperson, Jolan Clark, and let's hear about his good news in the neighborhood and beyond.
I'm going to interrupt really quick too and just say, I think we're going to keep most people on mute while we're presenting. If you have questions or comments, feel free to type them in the chat box, and I will help mediate that. Answer questions as I can, or gently interrupt if I cannot answer them. So I'll keep an eye on that.
Well, hi everybody. Thanks for the invitation and the opportunity to wear one of my very many cat Christmas sweaters that I have. I think that I've been thinking about this for, about a week since I got the email, and, all we ever talk about with 2020 is how awful it is and how horrible. And there has certainly been a lot of awful and a lot of horrible. But in the midst of that, there's also been a lot of really exciting things. We are getting a dog park finally in the neighborhood, and it's going to be right just a stone's throw from all of you along the Sanderson Gulch. In November, the voters of Denver passed two pretty historic things. The first was one that was near and dear to me. It was my bill, and that was a funding source to combat climate change. And I think that more than ever in the midst of all this chaos with the forest just burning all summer and that settling down in Denver, it was really front and center to see what we're up against and to see what a pandemic can bring. And there are cities all across America who are looking at Denver and what you all did in November, and looking at doing similar initiatives. And I think that this is going to be a real catalyst for the kind of change that we need and that we have needed for a while. And so I think it's a really exciting time to be in Denver. I was just talking to our folks over in that department about all of the really exciting exciting ideas on how to spend that money. And it's not just groundbreaking because it's about climate change, but the way that it was grounded in equity, especially in the year that we've had this year, is going to be really exciting to see climate work done like nobody else has done it before. So that's also just amazing news. And on top of that, that wasn't all Denver voters did. Did some really big things at the top of the ticket that are also very exciting, but I'll keep it more hyper local here. And also passed, the biggest funding source to serve our folks experiencing homelessness, the most vulnerable in our community, and really with a housing focused, to really start working on a housing first kind of model and get people what they need to get housed and stable. And there's a lot of evidence that shows that once you have that roof over your head, people are able to really get the other things that they need to get their life back on track. And so I'm really excited about that. It's just a huge measure that passed, and both of them in the same election. So that was really amazing. And then, of course, this week we had the first vaccines delivered to Colorado. And so we finally see a true light at the end of the tunnel for this pandemic. And so for me, that kind of ran the gamut from dog park right next to your house all the way to the end of the pandemic coming. There are going to be some dark months ahead, and some really transformative ways that Denver is showing the rest of the world what we can do on some critical issues. So that's what I had. But thanks for letting me come, and what a terrific idea in the midst of all of this craziness to continue to get together and have some FaceTime. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Joel, and that was awesome. I want to ask if anyone has any questions of Councilman Clark, just put them in the chat. And if that's not working, unmute yourself and shout it out or something. But while we have you, what's your cat's good news? Your actual cat, or do you have more than one cat?
If it were just up to me, if I lived alone, I would have like 37 cats, even though I would totally violate all of the Denver codes. I'm a little cat obsessed. I have 2 cats because that's how many, I can get away with without having to choose between my wife and the next cat, because she would probably make one of us move out, that's for sure. So I have 2 cats. One of my cats rose to internet fame when I brought her in and she sat on my lap in a council committee where we were talking about making declawing of cats illegal. And I was not a voting member of the committee, so I brought my cat to voice my opinion about what people should do. And so then my cat ended up on Reddit in a Photoshop war and had millions of views. So my cat is way more famous than me. And then I have a second cat now too. And so my cat's good news is they love having all of us home all the time. This is the first Zoom of about 13 today that my cat has not been sitting on my lap or likes to sneak in behind me on the chair and then push me off the chair. And so then I'm kind of crouching here in front of my room. So my cats are thrilled. This is the greatest year of all time because, my kids are home doing school. My wife's home teaching from the basement, and I'm here doing work. And so they can just pick and choose whose lap to go sit on while we do all of this. So that's definitely their good news.
That makes very good sense. And we have a question we have a second question from the audience. The first one is, where are your fur babies, Jolyn? But
I know, literally they've been in here all day. I also have a dog too. I love all animals. I'm a little cat obsessed, but love my dog as well. And usually at least one of them's in here, but I guess it's technically dinner time. So the rest of the family is downstairs eating. And so they're probably hoping for a few scraps to fall off the table during that. Is probably where they are.
Sense. Awesome. And we do have another question from the audience. It was in the news yesterday that a large homeless encampment was dispersed. What was the immediate plan for these folks? And do you see more tiny home communities coming in the future planning?
Yeah, it has been really hard. I went down for a virtual walkthrough of one of the camps last week, and there was a 14-year-old and a 4-year-old who were experiencing homelessness and had been for They were telling me for over a year and a half. So there are really some people struggling. So I spent a lot of time in the week, in the legislative branch of government. We don't have a lot of direct um, uh, authority over any of the enforcement or any of that stuff. Occasionally we get a contract here or there. So I spent a lot of time in the last week after having seen that, talking to all the folks who do this work directly, including we have some awesome new positions in each of the police districts that is funded out of another great initiative that Denver voters passed a couple years ago, Caring for Denver. And talking to, they're going out, they're really working with people to see what kind of services they need and providing that and closing those gaps. Because of COVID, there are a lot more people experiencing homelessness than we've seen before, and a lot more people who aren't comfortable in our traditional shelter situation. As much as the shelters have tried to move to distancing and stuff, when all you hear is that there's a very contagious flu out there, the thought of all getting in a room to sleep. So it has been hard. There are a lot of people struggling with a lot of different things. Some of them are ready for services and some aren't. And so the ones who are ready for services, we've got folks out from the homeless outreach team, this new position within each of the police districts who's literally going full time right now and meeting with people and connecting them to services. We've put a ton more money into hotel vouchers and stuff. Again, that $40 million that voters approved will start being collected in January. We won't actually start hitting the city coffers until the end of the first quarter, when sales tax is remitted to the city. And on top of that, right now we're not generating a lot of sales tax because of the shutdowns and everyone hunkering down with the pandemic. So it's going to take a little bit of time for that, and a lot of that money is going to go into capital projects to create housing, to create trauma-informed shelter, to replace the kind of sheltering that we have right now. And those things are going to take even more time to construct. So those are further down the road. But in my talking with the different folks that I've been talking with, there are some people who are very are not ready for kind of help. And so when they come into the camps and kind of do a cleanup, those people generally move a couple of blocks away and are camping somewhere else. But it is an opportunity for our outreach team to get out, and they are getting people who do need those services, finding folks like this family who now is getting some help and has a roof over their head as they're going through and finding them. So I would say, there are 10 people in a camp. The answer to that question of where are they is 10 different answers, because everybody is there for a different reason. They're experiencing something completely different. Just hearing all of the stories of everyone in the camp that I did my virtual walkthrough with. They're all different, and they're all there for a different reason, and they're all on a different path. But the city is working to connect anyone and everyone who's ready for that help and services to get what they need. So I don't know if that answered the question.
Yeah, there's a little bit of an additional question tacked on to. Sharona did ask about, and Holly, about tiny home communities in the future.
So I think the ballot initiative will definitely see more. We've just now have our first two safe outdoor spaces, which are tent areas that have sort of service-rich bathroom showers. We have one of those is being run by the same group that started the tiny homes. So that Cole Chandler and his group is involved in both of those things and continuing to work. So I think we'll continue to see, the city try anything and everything. Because again, if you have 10 people in one camp, they all 10 are on a very different journey. And then you talk about the thousands of people in Denver, and they're all struggling with different things and different obstacles, and we're going to need different solutions. There is not a one size fits all, hey, we just do this and that solves it for everyone. And so I think you'll continue to see the city trying everything and trying to scale up each of those options, to the point where it's reaching those people with these dollars. But I think we'll definitely continue to innovative solutions like that. Both of the safe outdoor spaces filled up pretty much the second they were there. Now we have to see, does that work? The tiny home community is a very specific set of people who are very committed to a community that's self-governed and to rules. A lot of the folks at these camps, that is their number one reason why they don't want to go to shelter, is they don't want to be anywhere where there's a rule, that they have to follow. And so I think that even that tiny home that serves some people whose shelters do not serve well, it still does not really connect with a large swath of the population that we see camping right now.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. And then in the interest of time, there is one last question, but maybe we could get the information and put it out there when we share snippets from this meeting. But it's about just really resources for folks that are affected by COVID, like rental assistance and how long the money will last and stuff like that. So I don't know if you could have done it quick.
I'll just quickly say that we continue to pump money into TRUA and other rental assistance here at the city level, and it's not being utilized. We actually moved some of those dollars because we were going to lose some of the federal dollars we'd put in there if we don't spend them by the end of the year. So there is money. I'll dig up the link and send it over to you about all the different resources, but the money is there, and we're trying to figure out, is it the people don't know how to access it, or with the kind of moratoriums on eviction and stuff, are people not needing it quite yet, but we will continue to make sure that those things are funded as fully at the city level. There's a lot of the state and federal stuff, but yeah, there are still lots of resources at the city level.
Cool. Okay, well, thank you so much, Joel. And we always appreciate your time. We appreciate everything that you do for our community and beyond. And we're just so thankful that you're here to share the good news in easily the best sweater I've seen all day.
You just have to invite me again so you can see one of my other ones.
No problem. All
well,
right.
thank you so much. So great to see all of you. Take care and happy holidays.
Thanks, Joel.
Awesome. Well, that was great. And so, not to rush through things, but we really like to be as respectful of your time as possible. So I would love to invite the famous Joyce Newfield to the stage. And Joyce, I forgot to ask you when we were prepping, would you like me to show the video first, or would you like that to be closer to the end?
Let me talk first, and then you can watch the video.
Okay, lovely.
So good news for us is that we were able to purchase our building. I think we had talked about that earlier, before the lockdowns all happened. And so today I actually wrote the check to pay our final mortgage payment off to our lenders. So that's pretty exciting. So, and that a lot of that was a result of the really generous donations on Colorado Gives Day. Our goal was to raise the money to finish the mortgage payment. Now, the only thing we have to do is we still have 4 years with our agreement with the city that we have to maintain our services as we do. And then that debt is forgiven also. So, I mean, and that shouldn't be really a problem to have to do that now. Another good thing is that none of our key core staff has gotten sick this year. We've had a couple of drivers get COVID, but they all were already off site before they were exposed and stuff. So our main staff and volunteers there, we've all remained healthy and been able to continue our services all along the way. We have been seeing an increase in the number of people that we've been seeing. Last week was a huge jump, and now this week is kind of more leveled off where it was before, but it's been really up and down. Compared to last year, it's 53% more people using the food pantry and 64% more using the kids' clothing bank. So like our last clothing bank, we had 92 families come through. So we just burned through the underwear. And even if you only get 3 pieces of underwear or 3 pairs of socks each, I mean, it's just wipes out so fast because it's an expensive thing. So I've been putting a lot of money in that. For those of you, if you donate to my Facebook birthday fundraiser, we collected like $600 in one shopping trip. On Black Friday to buy the cheap underwear at Walmart, I spent $400, and it's gone. All that underwear is gone. So that's going to be a constant need, is for continued food resources and also socks and underwear for the kids. So we also, one thing that's really neat is our individual donations are way up beyond what we ever projected. And I think people are just giving us all their vacation money. I mean, that's got to be what it is, because otherwise we wouldn't have made it this year. And the other neat thing is Food Bank of the Rockies has a new leader, Erin Pulling, and she has totally changed the way they function. And before she came on board, there was a lot of distrust between the food pantries and the Food Bank of the Rockies, because it was run like such a huge corporation that didn't care about us little guys. And she's turned that around. And if it wasn't for them this year pulling out all the stops to get us the food we need, I don't think we would have made it. And so I had a meeting with her last week, and we talked about just the change in the atmosphere between Food Bank of the Rockies as our parent organization and then all the pantries, and just how much of a better relationship we have now, and how they've just stepped up and stepped in and provided food. And some of that has come because we have, like, there's been some really significant food grants come through. There's one that's coming from the state that's like a $5 bazillion grant. I don't remember how much it is, but it's huge. And they aren't applying for it. Food Bank of the Rockies isn't, so that we can apply for it, and all the other pantries. So I thought that was a pretty generous step, because they know their capacity to raise money is so much bigger than ours. So I've applied for that, and hopefully it'll be able to get us food through the first 6 months of the next year, because we've been spending close to $2,000-3,000 a month just on non-perishable food. And then our grocery rescue, we use for all our produce and meat and dairy stuff. So that's been going pretty good and holding pretty steady so far. So we've been able to serve everybody, give them enough to eat. But yeah, we're just dumping money into non-perishables like crazy. So the video kind of shows a little bit more about how our daily functioning is now, because we are not doing a self-choice food pantry and everything is served outside. Sometimes it's a little more stressful when it's snowing on you, and that's happening, but it is what it is, and we deal with it. And so now we have a big propane heater outside when it's really, really cold. So if you want to show the video, you'll kind of see how our daily services are functioning now. Community Ministry receives our food from a variety of sources. Our largest source of fresh items, such as meat, dairy products, produce, deli items, and bread, comes from Grocery Rescue. 6 days a week, you will find our volunteers at 3 King Superstores, 1 Save-A-Lot store, and a small Mexican grocery collecting food that is in good condition but may have a little blemish on it. Approximately 25,000 pounds of food, valued at $50,000, is received through Grocery Rescue each month. Every week, we receive 108 produce boxes from Food Bank of the Rockies as part of the COVID relief funds. These boxes contain produce, a gallon of milk, and 1 type of meat. The other government food source we have is from the Emergency Food Assistance Program. This is primarily non-perishable food. These 2 government-funded programs account for 22,000 pounds of food, valued at $44,000 each month. In addition to that, we have been purchasing over $3,000 worth of non-perishable food each month just to keep up with the demand on our services. Funding for these food purchases comes from individual donors and several grants that are specifically for purchasing food. This year, we have partnered with Catholic Charities and the Meadow Gold Dairies to obtain milk every week. These type of partnerships enable us to provide individuals with a wide variety of nutritious food. We estimate the value of food going to each family is about $400. Our hope is that the money they save on groceries by coming to us can be used towards paying their rent and other bills. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we have seen an increase of 50% in the number of people using our food pantry. 2020 has been a very interesting year for all of us. And for those of us at community ministry, it has been no different. We've had to make adjustments in the way that we've had to do our service to everyone. And because we're an essential service, we've been open every day during this entire pandemic. Our clothing bank has moved from an inside clothing bank where we had one-on-one conversations with the families to an outdoor clothing bank, which serves people once a month. We see up to 150 kids each month through our clothing bank now because the needs are so great.
Bienvenidos. ¿Cómo estamos? Bien, bien, mucho sol hoy. Ok, hoy en la mañana tenemos esta entrega de ropa para niños, ok, y va a pasar, dígame su nombre, código postal, cuántos niños, cuántas niñas. Y puede tomar, no hay un límite.
One of the items that people really are in need of is underwear for their children. So we always have a long line waiting for that. So that's kind of an overview of how things go all the time for us. So yeah, it's been a good year. It's been an interesting year. I'm ready to move on, move on to a new year.
Joyce, we did have a question come in about if you take donations. I think it was in reference to the clothing bank, but in general, what does giving a donation look like in monetary form, clothing form, however else you accept donations?
So monetary donations you can give through our website. It'll take you, if you go to the Donate Now button on our website, it'll take you to the Giving First Foundation or Colorado. Well, it's the Giving First. That's, you know, it's the same people that runs Colorado Gives Day. So that you do credit card donations. You can mail checks to us. We have a new mail lady and she's really, really good about getting us everything, which is really nice. Julianne's her name. I don't know if you guys have met her, but she's a great mail person. You can also drop off money at our place. Usually we have you come around to the alley because that way you don't get all mixed in with all the clients coming in. For clothing donations, we will take kids' clothing from like age 12 years old and down to newborns. Underwear and socks for kids all the time. Also coats for any size people, coats, hats, and gloves. Right now, I think I'm down to my last 15 coats. So if you want to clean out your coat closet or know somebody else that needs to clean out their coat closet, just go and take their coats and bring them over and we'll take them. Food donations, right now, some of our biggest needs are jelly, peanut butter jelly, cereal, soup, and macaroni and cheese. Those seem to be the ones that we go through the fastest.
There's a question about adult clothes. Are you only accepting children's clothes right now?
Just kid clothes. Yeah, we don't do adult clothes. They tend to take up a lot of space, you know. So we just do kids clothes and 12 and under, because once you get past 12, you kind of are pretty picky about what you want to wear, and it's not going to be what your mom gets you at the clothing bank. So,
well,
yeah,
awesome.
no adult clothes.
Thank you so much, and thanks for all the questions. And if you have questions as we go on to the next segment, feel free to type them in the chat, and we'll get them to Joyce or be able to answer them at the end of the meeting. So, Joyce, thank you so much. I mean, you are so, like, you and community ministry is such a wonderful institution in this community and beyond. And we've said it like a million times, and you've been so giving to us over the years. You know, when we could meet in person, you were always so gracious, allowing us to meet in your guys' space and giving us a couple of cookies and whatever. And it's just been such a neat relationship. So we're so thankful to have you in our community and really the city of Denver. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Well, thanks again. And with that, I am super excited to turn it over to Johnny Sherry. And Johnny, as I'm saying it, I feel like some people call you John, and I just hope I'm calling you the thing you want to be called. But he is just a neighborhood extraordinaire, has been doing the coolest stuff in Southwest Denver. And I just want to give you guys an opportunity to meet him via our meetings. So just unmute yourself, John or Johnny, and let's hear about you.
Sorry, I'm still not that great at the technology. But that actually brings me into my next segment. So I'm super humbled to be around all of Jolan and Joyce, because I'm just kind of an underground, just the guy that I see problems that I try to fix them the best that I can. I see a bunch of, so what it started with was I saw garbage in our neighborhood. I'm like, that I'll try to organize people to clean it up. So every the first Saturday of every month, I organized a litter pickup, and for a few months it worked really well. We cleaned up everything. That's not true. A week later, it would still be there. But then after a while, like, people stopped showing up. I stopped showing interest. So then I'm like, well, and I saw another problem with people that need to be fed, people that need to be taken care of. And so then I started a meeting at the same place on the first Saturday of every month, delivering food and blankets and whatever you might need to survive. And that's kind of where I got my start. And then it's still like 8 months in progress. So it's been a good, hasn't been a good year, but it's been a good year for that. And then people are like, well, what could you do with this? Like a bunch of blankets. Like, I'll deliver them. We'll see what happens. And I've been really trying to hyper focus locally on people in need in our area, because I could bring all those donations down to like Civic Center or downtown. And a lot of people are going out there, and I'm not saying it's not people of need, but I feel like our community was neglected a little bit, of people just giving out socks, giving out whatever, blankets, dry canned food, anything, and not going into those camps. As was spoken earlier, there's a lot of camps that need those help, and they move. They definitely, they're a nomadic community. So you have to follow them up. And a lot of them, it's not a chosen nomadic community. They're kind of being pushed out from their spots for, I'm not going to get at that, for different reasons. But I still felt a need to help them out the best way I could. And so once I started spreading that message, people just like, hey, what can you do with this? What can you do with that? The people in this neighborhood wanted to help, and it warmed my heart. So I'm like, okay, I'll take that. Let's run with it. I recently put in a donation box, a blessing box that was given. Shouldn't say it was given to me, but it was given to me from an Eagle Scout in my front yard, that people in my neighborhood can donate to and people can take from. Yeah, so it's been an ongoing process. Again, I feel humbled to just be in this conversation. But yeah, so it started with something, and it kind of evolved, and I hope it keeps evolving, because I think it's people want to learn how to help in this neighborhood, and they ask. That they've recently reached out to me. They've reached out to you, Brittany. They've reached out to a lot of people. So I would love to be that person that you can reach out to, and I will try to find a way for whatever the donation may be, or however you want to give, whatever time you want to give, whatever kind of financial donation you want to give. I would love to be that catalyst to get it going, because there's so many people in this neighborhood that need help. And I would love to be that person that can help them. And there's so many people in our neighborhood that want to help, and they don't know how. They don't know how can it, how can it go. So I would like to be that person too.
That is so awesome. And this is exactly why I thought you would be the perfect person to just kind of share your story with us, because I know I have seen, and I'm sure you guys have seen too, just a lot of people are seeing the need. I think their eyes are like wider open, but they're like, I don't know where to begin. Like, where do I start? You know? And so the things that you've done are just so, it's simple. It starts in the neighborhood, but it's a really big deal. And can I ask you a couple of questions while I have the floor
I
here?
think so. I feel like I'm struggling on my own. Yes, please ask me questions.
I want to make sure that everyone knows where your collection site, where you collect the goods that you do distribute. And then my second part of that question is, how do you find the folks to distribute the stuff to? So it's kind of a two-parter.
Yeah, that's fine. So I do most of my no-gooder do-gooder work through Chain Reaction Brewery, just because it's like a central place in the neighborhood, and I've gained a lot of friends there. So that's where I have boxes set up for clothes and blankets and jackets right now currently. I meet there every first Saturday of the month, depending on situation. Like in January, it's going to be the first Saturday falls the day after New Year's, so I'm going to move it back a week to January 9th. But I do most of my work out of Chain Reaction because it's a central area.
Yeah.
What was the second part of that question? I'm sorry.
And then and I think this part is even more fascinating. Well, Chain Reaction is fascinating and a great place to go, and we should all go there. But secondly, how do you find folks in these communities that need the assistance? Because I know you had mentioned there's a lot of places to distribute goods, like kind of in the downtown area and stuff, but then how do you work on finding folks in our neighborhood that are of the greatest need? Because that seems like a kind of a big hurdle.
Yeah, absolutely. So the brains of my operation, he passed away a bit ago, but he would drive around and find camps, like the camps that we're still talking about, like that we were previously talking about in this meeting. He would drive around and map it out, like literally map it out for me. And so I'm like, oh, there's a big homeless camp at Evans and Santa Fe, or Kalamath, and I mean, I'm not gonna name them out, but those particular camps. So then I would collect goods at Chain Reaction, and people would help me out. Again, the awesome neighbors that you are would bring donations, and then we would bag them together, which we still do. Bag them together, throw them in the back of my car, and then we would drive out to these camps. They're mapped again. And then we would drop them off and just drive by and be like, hey, we got sandwiches, and people would come out and we hand them out as needed.
Yeah. So if we were to give something that is the most needed right now, what would we bring to the box at Chain Reaction?
Right now, probably socks and hand warmers.
Okay.
And sanitizer.
Okay. Awesome. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for sharing. I don't see any questions in the chat, but if anyone has any, just pop one in there. But again, so is it John or Johnny?
Johnny is good.
Okay, cool. So the way to stay in touch with you best is, I'm going to just throw this out there, but you probably have additional good ways, is he's all over the Athmar Park Facebook page, sending out information, and you often do share on the Ruby Hill Facebook page too.
I do.
Yeah, so look for a fella named Johnny Sherry doing some really good stuff. If you want, that if you're looking for something to do that's going to fill your heart up, he's a really good neighbor to connect with. Just as well as Joyce with community ministry, and I think Jolyn has a lot of connections to hook us up with stuff that's going to increase, the good news in our neighborhood for sure. So
I would like to connect with Joyce, because she's an amazing lady, and I know all the good things the community is doing, but I have actually never been able to meet her. So shout out to Joyce, she's amazing. And Joe Lon, I've met him. Whatever, he's just our council, whatever. No big deal. But yes,
Love that.
thank you for both those people. Amazing, amazing people.
Oh, totally. And I think I might see one question here. Okay, one more quick question. You mentioned your source of finding camps is no longer with us. Have you thought about crowdsourcing where those camps are?
Here's the tricky thing about camps is they don't want to be known because they keep getting pushed out by the companies that they're in front of, or the Denver Police Department. And I get it. So it's kind of a touchy subject, but they don't want to be really known. So you just kind of have to seek them out on their own, because they have a distrust of authority. If that makes it.
Yes. Yep, that does make sense. I mean, the work you're doing.
Sorry, I'm gonna move on with that. That's why that when I love volunteers, but I don't love a lot of volunteers going into these camps because they already have a healthy distrust. Again, if you want to deliver with me, absolutely fine, but it's not going to probably be the same situation you would think it might be, if that makes any sense at all.
Yes, for sure. We want to be as respectful as possible. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah, and they want to remain anonymous.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, thank you so very much for sharing. I'm so appreciative. We all are. And then, hey, if you get an opportunity, if you haven't already, will you post a picture of the blessing box that the Eagle Scout built for you in your backyard?
Absolutely.
On the Ruby Hill Facebook page, because it's like a little library, but it's a blessing box where folks can, take and then also give, and it's real cool. So
absolutely, yeah. Sorry I didn't touch on that enough, but yes, absolutely, I will absolutely do that to Ruby Hill and probably Valverde as well.
That'd be awesome. And hey, there's a lot to touch on, so that's how things go. So thank you so much, Johnny. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Brandy, for inviting me on this. I'm excited about it.
Totally. Yeah, what a cool connection. We need to connect you with Joyce for sure. Yes, totally. Okay, and then we do have one more quick update that we want to give space for, and it's Dave Burton just wanted to give a quick Levitt update, and to Jackie, if you have anything that you want to mention. Okay.
Yep, no, it was just reminding that we had Dave add on with some cool things happening with Levitt, which has been a quiet partner so far, but hopefully we have some good things in the future where they won't be so quiet.
I'll give you a quick 2-minute update. So yeah, as we all know, music has been shut down this year, and we at Levitt have been working on 2 projects, which is Levitt in the Living Room. I don't know if you guys have tuned into that. And then also Save the Stages is another not-for-profit that our executive director is involved with. Levitt in the Living Room has had over 500,000 views. And so we've been really trying to help all the artists survive. Additionally, our board's involved with the DeVos Institute. We're doing a board development, a program right now, which has been, I think our second meeting is this coming Friday, and that's trying to refine kind of what it means to be in the board and what it means to be to help Levitt. And so we've been working on that quite a bit. My next piece of information is we are now going to start partnering with Live Nation, which is one of the big concert promoters in Denver and nationally. And we're not sure what 2021 is going to bring, but whether we have 0 shows, hopefully not, 20 shows, 50 shows or more, we're hoping for more. I mean, we're hoping that we all get through this pandemic, and by June, everyone's ready to come out to see concerts. And that's our big hope. We have been rescheduling shows, and we have a pretty good amount of shows lined up, including a bunch of paid events and free events. So we're all ready to get back to business, and hopefully we can live in Ruby Hill Park this coming summer.
Oh, thank you so much.
Double.
I just can't even begin to imagine how grateful a lot of us are gonna feel being at Ruby Hill Park together again with music. Like, I think just getting groups of like neighbors together face to face, eye to eye, when it's safe to do so is just going to be like magical. I can't think of a better word to describe it. So yeah, well, thank you so much for the update. And thanks a lot, you guys. We totally went over our time, but listen, there is a lot of good news in Ruby Hill and beyond. So we just had a lot to share. And then real quick, Jackie, do you have any last thoughts or anything like that?
Nope, just appreciative that everyone was willing to take the little bit of extra time to help share the positivity and the holiday spirit, and just say happy holidays to everyone. It's great to virtually have this group.
Absolutely. Yes. Everyone stay warm. I see Sharona waving. Stay warm, stay cozy. Hug the people you're allowed to hug, and we'll see you in January, okay?
Happy holidays.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.